Okay. Welcome everyone to Changing of the Hip Hop Guards. I am your host, Uncle E. That's my partner, the journalist Sincere. And today we have a special guest, none other than DJ Tahleim, man. Dancer, DJ, what can I say? All around true Yorker.
No
That's how I
doubt.
like to call him. How you doing, man? How's everything going?
Everything is good, man. Everything is good.
Good,
Thank you
good,
guys for
man.
having me.
Nah,
Absolutely.
thank you, man. Thanks for taking the time, man. Let's sit back and have some fun, man, and dig into a little bit of your history, and bring it all the way up to today and see what you got going on. So, Sincere, take it away, bro.
Yeah, take us back to a little bit to where you're born and raised.
I was born in Hell's Kitchen, New York City. For those who know, Hell's Kitchen is Midtown, West Side, from 34th Street to 57th Street, from like 8th Avenue all the way to the West Side Highway. So that's the Hell's Kitchen area. That's where I was born, man.
Take us a little bit back to a day in the life of DJ Tahleim growing up in Hell's Kitchen. Teenage years.
Well, I did. I was born in Hell's Kitchen and moved around, you know, through went back to Puerto Rico for like 2 years, came back, lived in I lived different places, Jamaica, Queens. So, but my family was still there. My grandfather, his apartment's there, my uncles, my cousins. So even though I didn't live there growing up, I was always back there with my family. And as a teenager, I lived right over I was living in Jersey in Union City, which is one stop in from Hell's Kitchen. So I was one stop in, come in. That's where I was hanging out as a teenager as well. So, day in the life, man. Just taking that bus, coming into the city. Uh, One of my dance partners, DJ I Truth, and good friend, good brother, lives right next door to the Port Authority. It's like holla at him out the window, hey yo, yo. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah,
I go up, we come down. We're going up Ninth Avenue, going to go check on my cousin, the rest of my crew, and just exploring the city. And yeah,
so, so you just mentioned, our truth.
yeah.
But what year was that when you guys actually connected?
Um, well, my cousin was raised in Hell's Kitchen, 47th Street. And him and I Truth were friends. They went to school together. So
Okay.
I met I Truth through my cousin Mike. And that was probably like 86, 85, 80, 85, 86. I would come visit. But then when I started coming on my own, when I was like about 80, 88, when I was
Okay.
like 14, and I was hanging out, able to travel on my own at that time.
So your brother went to IS 70?
I Truth, yeah. I
No,
Truth went
no,
to I-70.
right. And your brother did too, or
No, no, my cousin.
I mean
No,
your
my
cousin. I'm
cousin.
sorry.
Yeah, no, he went. I think I'm not sure. I gotta ask them. I'm not sure, but I don't think he went to I-70.
Oh, okay, okay. That's how
Yeah.
I met. That's how I met our truth, man. It was through IS 70.
Oh, I see. I see.
Yeah, yeah. And to
That's why I
give you,
forgot about that connection.
yeah, that's so. Me and him went to IS 70. I had classes with him, or one class that I can remember for sure.
Oh,
And I'll
word.
tell you a quick funny thing. And
And this what year was that?
well, that's why I was asking about your cousin
Oh,
because
okay.
I graduated in '87 from IS 70. So
Okay.
I was in
Which
IS.
is it's a middle school, correct?
Actually, at that time, it was an intermediate school. It only went from, I want to say, seventh, eighth, and ninth, maybe sixth
Oh,
grade. I'm not sure, maybe
okay.
sixth. But after ninth grade, you had to then go to like a apply to like
Oh, so
humanities or
really?
that's
So
how
so
it was
you
that's how it was at that time. I think it's different now.
right. Okay, got
Um,
you.
so, but I'll tell you just a quick story, and I know we'll get into this a little bit later. But
Yeah.
me and that truth were in classes in IS 70. And then I ended up moving to DR, whatever. I came back, and the next time I ran into iTruth was actually at Kilimanjaro when you
Wow.
guys and KMD and Pete Rock, I, we were outside waiting to get in, and I just happened to kind of see him. He had shades on,
Word.
and I don't know how I just like I was like, yo, you Cassius? You know what I mean? And he,
Right.
then we reconnected like that, man. So it was pretty cool. But we'll get to that Kilimanjaro story a little bit later down.
No doubt. You got
Also, I'm sorry, Prancer went to IS-72, right?
I just found out yesterday.
Okay.
Me and Sincere
And
would
I
talk
think Loose Joints too.
loose
If I'm
joints. I think loose joints also, but
okay.
me and Sincere were just talking about Prince and all of that yesterday. And
Oh, nice.
something told me, I was like, you know what? Let me ask iTruth if there was anybody else that went to school with us that went on to become dancers, and he mentioned Prince. And I have a feeling that Prince might have been a year ahead of me.
Okay.
Because I can't iTruth swears I should know because he played ball. I used to play ball. And
Yeah.
I can't picture his face, but
Got
yeah,
you.
there's a lot of connections there.
Okay.
Felix Solis, who I just found out is in there's a show called Ozark. There's a Netflix series. He was in I-70 with us, and Marlon Wayans.
Right.
Yeah. A lot of
That's what's
connections
up.
there.
very dope. You come from a musical family. Can you give us a little background history on your family?
Yeah. Well, my father, grew up. He was born in Hell. He was born also in Hell's Kitchen, um, and raised. And he grew up in the 50s. And when he was about a teen, when he was in a teen, I guess it was in the 60s when he started. So when doo-wop was popular. So my father gravitated towards the doo-wop genre. Um, you know, he that's what he was doing, singing. My uncle gravitated towards the salsa. He played trumpet, was a musician, and worked with a lot of heavy hitters in the salsa game, from like Larry Harlow, LeBron Brothers, my godfather, which is Mark Diamond, um, which was a pianist for Willie Colon's first band with Hector Lavoe, and then he went on to become like uh, a great solo artist as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, and then it gets deep, man. It goes on and on. My grandfather's little brother cut a record in Puerto Rico back in the days, like on some like bolero kind of style music. And I just found that out recently. So, yeah,
Wow.
it's in there, man.
So it just runs in the family, man.
Absolutely.
Nice.
Absolutely.
So as a kid, though, being that your pops was into it, and pretty much everybody in your family, were you exposed to a lot of these, artists that after you became older, you're like, wow, I used to be around them, or did you get to see a lot of them?
I didn't get to see a lot of them because it was my uncle that was the one who actually got into the business, and he was the one that was
Okay.
traveling, and like, I was too young to go anywhere
Okay.
at that time. So I do remember I was talking to my father earlier, and my godfather, right? He was on Via Records, which is under Fania. Celia
Okay.
Cruz was on Via
Mhm.
Records. There's a lot of people who are on Via Records, and Mark Diamond. He has, I believe, He had a record deal contract. He had two solo salsa classics, and I guess he was unhappy. I guess towards the end of his contract, and he was just like, you know what, I'm doing this last record in English. So he wound up doing a whole like fusion of like R&B, funk, rock. You know what I'm saying? Like a Latin twist album. And my father was part of that group. He changed the name from Mark Diamond he made the group called the Alexander Review,
Mm.
and which my father was a part of that group and sung background on the record. My uncle played on the record. Uh, there was even T.S. Monk played on it.
Wow.
Monk's son,
Hmm.
um, and a couple other like heavy hitters. It was a great album, but the record company didn't push it, and a lot of people were really thrown off by it because he comes from the salsa genre, and they're like, "Yo, what's going on? Like, what is
Right.
this?" When Puerto Ricans and Dominicans get, they feel about their salsa, they're connected to it, and they expect something of you, and it's like you come with something different. They're like, hold on, wait a minute,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah, absolutely right.
But it was a great record, and it actually goes for a lot of money. I actually picked it up for like a couple years ago for like $50,
Really?
because it was just, it was it's rare because obviously it didn't do well.
Yeah.
Um, but I forget. I think Jurassic 5 might have like sampled something off of there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Damn, that's
So I'm
dope,
sorry. What
man.
was it called? I kind of got lost. Was there a
Oh, just the
question?
musical background of your family. So you're still on point.
Got you.
Yeah. No worries, man. We just having some fun and conversation. There's no,
Absolutely. No
Yeah.
doubt.
So what point do you start getting involved with music? Are you playing instruments early on? Is it breakdancing, graffiti? How are you getting into music at an early age?
Um, through records. I guess just as a little kid, like, records were. I was in the '70s. 45s were out, and I remember. I think my first record was the Georgia Brown, the Harlem Globetrotters like soundtrack.
Really?
The main theme. Yeah, like I used to
Yeah.
kill that 45. Like but that's like one of the first records I remember like having, and
Yeah.
I'm like 4 or 5 years old, and just listening to music, collecting music, and then towards the early '80s, b-boying was hot on the street. I was living in Jamaica, Queens at the time, and hip hop was everywhere on the street. You come outside and the music is in the air. Dancing. The culture was very vibrant. So I started through dance.
So, okay. And what was your early inspiration as far as dance goes? Was there any particular, was it somebody that you saw that inspired you to want to dance, whether it was on TV or just out there in the streets?
Oh yeah, it was out on the street. Also, Beat Street was out. The Rocksteady crew, New York City Breakers. You know, that was what was popping, man. I was like right there. I remember like I feel like the first famous person I ever saw was Little Lep.
Oh yeah, yeah,
He was part of the New York City Breakers,
yeah.
the movie, and I was in Jamaica, Queen. I've seen him around the corner of my crib, like with the sheepskin, and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
I think that's the first famous person I've ever seen that was in a movie.
Right.
You
Wow, Little
know,
Lep. I
yeah,
saw him
Little
a
Lep.
couple of years ago at damn,
Really?
where did I see? Yeah, a few. Well, damn, I almost want to say it might have been a Zulu anniversary.
Okay.
Yeah, I think
That's
Speedy
what's
was
up.
there.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, so yeah, that was there, man. Like, that was the first dance, that I was involved in.
So you were dancing before you got together with Our Truth?
Yeah, yeah. Because like I said, I had friends from, I was like in third grade, fourth grade at this. No, I'm sorry, fifth and sixth grade is when I started like dancing.
Oh wow.
Cutting the cardboard, getting a refrigerator box, cardboard, cutting it, spreading it out, practicing my, a couple moves. We had like, our little moves, but also the dynamic breakers were in Queens. So I got to witness them live, in the streets and the little battles and things like that.
Wow. That's
And
dope.
then I remember my first battle. It was me and my boy. His name was Elliot. We were just like, practicing doing our thing. All of a sudden, like 30 kids come from around the corner. Like I was like, yo, like I got shook. I ain't gonna lie, I was shook. So I was like, yo, I think my father left. I gotta give my father his keys. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like I started to like, try to get up out of there, but it was just too late. Like, but it was just a battle. You know what I mean? It was nothing, no violence. It was just a straight up like, all right, let's, boom. And I got busy, did some things, and that was it.
Yeah.
Just like got it out my system. You know what I mean? And just got into it. With that aggression. I was like, I wasn't ready. But you know
Yeah.
what? You had to be ready. It's just like, yo, this is it. Like,
Yeah. Damn, that's crazy. That shit,
Yeah,
it sounds like a scene from like a beat street or something.
word, man. It was
Breaking.
real life.
Yeah, right. But in real
You know, it's
life,
funny because I live in Queens now, so like, you know, I go to by Jamaica, like Hillside Avenue. This was like 164th Street, right off Hillside Avenue, right off the corner, and I passed it sometimes. I'm like, yo, that's crazy. That's like
that's what.
you know,
Yeah,
my first
that's
battle right on the street. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah.
so
I wish there was some footage of that.
word.
Uh,
You're known from the famous SOS crew, but before the crew, can you tell us some of the other crews that you were with before forming that crew?
Um, that was pretty much it, man. That was like when, you know, my like I said, my cousin and I True for friends, and then my boy Tim. You know, they all hung out, and then I was like the cousin that came from Queens and would hang out, and you know, we were all friends, and that was the first crew that I was in.
The name of the crew was Swingers of Soul. Can you take us back to the concept, who was involved, the ideals behind that crew?
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny because we had another name before that, and we were doing this TV show called The Latin Connection, um, and we were going to be featured in the, you know, we're going to be the featured dancers to do a dance number, and we needed a name, so we were like, oh, you know, I think so. The one of the songs at the time was Rap's New Generation by the Classic Two,
yeah, yeah.
and so we were calling ourselves the New Generation, you know, at that time. But,
Okay.
you know, after a while, it wasn't sitting with me. Like, you know, I started to think, you know, there was IOU dancers, and they were a very big inspiration because they was like the biggest crew. They were like the flyest crew. They was in all the videos, you
Hmm.
know. So it seemed like that was like a thing, like to have like you know, abbreviation or something. So I started to like play with just the letters and with things that inspired me and what our style kind of represented. And it was basically the swing, which was takes it back to the swing era of the Nicholas brothers. I was very
Hmm.
inspired by that era of dance. I used to go study it. You know, I used to go to the library and go to the video section and watch these movies just to see that one dance part. It's like the equivalent of like going record digging and, like, you know what I'm saying, listening to the record until you get to that one part. It's like, oh, I'm gonna use this. Like,
You mean you
uh,
didn't go on YouTube to look up the Nicholas brothers?
oh man, nah, man. I had
The
to go to
lie.
the actual library with in Lincoln Center
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and, you know, put the tape in and, like, you know, sit there and watch it. And then, you know, you're not supposed to fast forward it, but, you know, they're not watching. I'm fast forwarding the joint, like, and you know, it was inspired. So that's the swing era, and obviously the soul era, James Brown, you know, the Godfather of soul. And, you know, we would take certain steps from them, incorporate it with our style of things that we were doing. So it just made sense to like swingers of soul. That's what I came up with. So we just stuck with it. And I was just like, yo, I think this is a good one. And I true for greed, and that's it. It was
Let me
born.
ask you. Let me ask you a question. So maybe you could help kind of break it down. So I know, at one point you had the breaking, popping and all of that stuff, right?
Right.
But then it seemed like the kind of dance that, let's say, people like SOS, IOU, and
Right.
all these type of crews that came out, it seemed like the dance kind of changed. It was like they incorporated some of the breaking, but then they added like a different
Exactly.
flavor to it.
Exactly.
Do you know, like, when did that start exactly, or,
I
or
would
more or
say
less?
it started up, I guess, around 85, 86.
Okay.
I would say around that era for sure. Because, you know, at that point, you know, the b-boying, breaking, and popping, you know, it really like went, you know, after B Street it came out, it was just like everybody was up on it. You know, they had so many. It kind of started to get played out, so called,
Hmm.
at that time because it was just so much, got so much exposure. Just like anything else, it's like, yeah, everybody's doing it. You know what I mean?
Right.
It wasn't just us anymore. Now it was just somebody in the suburbs that didn't know anything about it. was doing it. You know, they had these instruction like how to break dance with like, you know,
Yeah,
aerobic
yeah, yeah,
teachers
yeah, yeah.
teaching break dance and stuff.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
so also so I think what changed was the music because now hip hop records, you know, when you're dealing with the music change as well, you know what I'm saying? Like
That's true.
the style of music from the early 80s, you know what I mean, where there was a lot of electro in it, you know what I'm saying? And then
Mhm.
once we got to the sampling part and like the Marley Marl, you know, Eric B. and Rakim, uh, you know, they started to have actual dances to the actual record, you know what I'm saying? You know, they were actual, like the Pee Wee Herman, you know what I'm saying?
Right,
Get
right.
busy, y'all, you know what I'm saying? Everybody doing the Pee
Hmm.
Wee Herman. It
Yeah, the
was actual
WAP.
dance. So they had names, you know what I mean? Now, because breaking, it's to breaks. You know what I
Hmm.
mean? Those 70s breaks. That's a certain style of, you know. So it changed with the music.
Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha.
The Bismarck dance, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like
yeah. You had the WAP. What else you
the
had?
WAP, all
The
that.
Cabbage Patch and all that.
Roger Rabbit, you know, the Running Man, obviously.
Running Man. Yep, yep, yep. Okay, okay. That makes sense. That makes sense.
Yeah, yeah. So it was the music that changed, and we, you know, it changed with it. And the style of hip hop was changing, so the dance, you know, just followed it.
Gotcha.
I talked to several legendary dancers such as Rubber Bands,
Mm,
Buddha Stretch, Prince Low, about some of the places they used to go to hone their skills, something like the Latin Quarters. Can you take us
right.
back to where you used to hone your skills at clubs and in the scenario? What was that scene like back then?
Oh man, it was amazing, man. I can't. The fact that I was so young, it was crazy. That you know that I was you know 15 years old. You know, like at these there were discotheques back in the days. You know, clubs.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, Studio 54, which was on 54th Street and 8th Avenue. And that's another thing because a lot of these clubs were in Hell's Kitchen in Midtown Manhattan. They had Roseland, Latin Quarters, um, Studio 54, the Red Parrot. Um,
Right, got it.
those are just some of the few. Also, then in the Chelsea area, I never went to the quarters. I was a little too young. I missed that one. Like that's the what like I literally came into the scene like a year after that kind of faded out that or was stopped because you know it was crazy from what I heard. Um, so yeah, so it was Studio 54, but Studio 54, the actual club was a different owners, I guess, in the late 80s. So it wasn't. It's the same location as the 54 of the 70s.
Yeah, right, right,
That you
right.
know it got the disco era and Studio 54, but this was a whole nother era. But the actual same location, same club. We go there on Friday nights, Saturday nights, even Wednesdays. They had hip hop. I remember seeing Public Enemy perform there. De La Soul when they first dropped, Pluck Tunin performed. It was nuts, bro. It was bananas.
Good time
So
to be
yeah, man.
alive.
Yeah,
What about
absolutely. And then like '89, then like other clubs started happening, like Mars, the Building,
the building? Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
yeah,
Tunnel.
MKs, Tunnel, Kilimanjaros. So many, man, to mention. Mars. Did I say Mars?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. There was
Yeah.
I know at some point you had home base. I think that was a little bit after.
Right. And actually, Kilimanjaros and home base is actually
With the
no.
same,
Wait,
right?
is
No,
it
no,
the
I think
same location?
Mars. Wait, what?
No, it
One of
was
them is the same.
Sound Factory and Heartthrobs. Heartthrobs is another
Oh,
club from
Heartthrobs. Yeah,
the.
yeah, yeah.
That
Yeah,
was like more freestyle music.
it was a lot
Uh,
of good clubs back in the days, man.
yeah. So I was into freestyle music at that time too as well. I ain't gonna front. You know, Puerto
Freestyle and
Rican in New York
and house
City, like
music too, though,
freestyle.
right?
Oh, exactly. House.
The
You had the
house
house
music.
clubs as well.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and you pretty
Exactly.
much did a little bit of everything, man, right? I used to see like
Yeah, I did. But I feel like I was more on my hip hop.
okay,
Some of I Truth was more into the
in the
house
house, right?
a little
Okay,
more than I
okay.
was.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You know, but
I mean,
back then you had clubs that played house, and then they would go into some hip hop. You know what I'm
mhm,
saying? Then they'll go back to house. You know, so it was a nice mix.
gotcha.
Now, at this time, are you dibbling and dabbling into being a DJ, or is this strictly dancing at this point?
Strictly dancing, man. Strictly dancing.
You guys found yourselves in a lot of videos, Heavy D, Jungle Brothers, etc. Take us back to how you guys found your first placement and what that consisted of, as far as auditions, things
Right.
of that nature.
Okay. Well, the first placement was at the Latin Connection, which was a TV show. It was like a dance show with performers. It was at the club. It was on Channel 7 locally on Saturday nights. Um, so we were dancing actually in Studio 54, and some guy came up to us and gave us some flyers for an audition. It winds up that person was Tyrone Proctor, which is another famous choreographer from. He was on Soul Train. Like he was from a whole nother generation. So now he was like recruiting new dancers, and
Wow.
we went to the audition. We got the part, and it was at Studio 54. Like this is the place that we go to. Now we're going to go film there, like during the daytime. And obviously they had to fill up the whole dance floor with dancers. So pretty much everybody that was dancing at that time, I got introduced to everybody. Like not everybody, but a lot of people at one time. Like the IOU dancers were there. Rest in peace, Voodoo Ray. Met Voodoo Ray there.
Yeah, I was going to ask
Uh,
you about. I wanted you to touch on him a little bit.
Yeah, man, and that was the first time I met him, and we just that was the first placement, and it was great because now we made connections with other people, and that's what started the ball rolling. Then videos that came next. Uh, yeah, videos, shows, commercials.
So you're mentioning like meeting all these other dancers, right? And now before that, you talked about that spontaneous battle that you had. Right now, when you're meeting cats like the IOU dancers and Rubber Band Man, all these guys, was there ever a time that you guys battled against them or any other crew, or was it just all like we respect
There
each
was
other?
bad there was like battles here and there. Not necessarily with them. It'd be more individuals. Uh,
Okay,
you know, but we never really like got into it with any like it was. I think we had a respect, and we just another thing about them. Once you got cool with people, it was just like y'all dance together. You know what I'm saying?
yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah, yeah.
we get together and we all do the same dance, and we got the whole about 20 of us. You know what I mean? In the middle doing the same dance, and just and everybody taking turns going in. Like it wasn't a, so much of a battle atmosphere from my point of view, but there
Mhm.
was certain battles that certain members it got heated at certain
Okay.
times.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, I remember for most part, like when you would go to a club or whatever, it was kind of more like you said, like you might be there with your crews, and all of a sudden somebody might get in the middle and starts do something. The next one might get in, so it's not really like a battle, but it is kind of like displaying like
the competition, yeah,
what I
definitely
could do.
competition.
Right, right, right.
But we were all cool, so I think that I think we were
Mhm.
just there to have fun. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like our attitude was just to go get busy, have fun, and just display our skills.
Nice.